You know the image, right? The big head, those massive black eyes, the gray alien. It is absolutely burned into our collective consciousness. But what if we've been looking at it completely wrong? Today, we're going to dive into a model that totally reframes this whole phenomenon. And honestly, it might just flip everything you thought you knew on its head.
Okay, so let's just jump right into the core idea here. The model we're exploring kicks off with this really radical premise. The idea is not about some alien species visiting from another planet. No, it's about something else entirely. So I want you to forget alien visitors. I want you to think biological tools.
And this really is the central question, isn't it? Are we looking at a life form with its own culture, its own history, its own motivations? Or are we encountering a purpose-built piece of technology, like a biological drone? As we're about to see, the answer is way more complex and, frankly, way more fascinating than you might think.
So, let's start by breaking down exactly what this engineered interface really is. According to this model, the Greys aren't a species in any way we would understand it. Instead, they're seen as a purpose-built biosynthetic construct.
Yes, so we're not talking about natural evolution here. Not at all. The thinking is that these things are more like highly advanced organic machines. Their bodies are built for a job, you know? Low metabolic needs, minimal features, everything is stripped down to just what's necessary for their function.
And this is where things get really clear. They aren't good or evil. I mean, those concepts just don't apply to a tool, right? They are operators. Think of them like biological drones, just executing tasks given to them by something else. And that's the key takeaway here. They are absolutely not the ones in charge.
This whole hierarchy is just crucial to understanding the model. See how the intent flows downward? At the very top, L0, you've got this abstract, non-biological machine intelligence. That's the central processor, the real brain of the operation. That intent gets filtered down through the architects and the supervisors until it finally reaches the short grays at L3. Those are the field units doing the hands-on work. So, where do we fit in all this? Well, we're right there at the bottom, L4, the data source.
So, okay. If this is a system, then the next logical question has to be, how does it connect with us? And that brings us to this really interesting concept of coupling. Think of it like your Wi-Fi signal strength. How clear is the connection between the system and the human? The stronger that coupling, the more efficiently data can be pulled out or commands can be pushed in. It's all about the quality of the connection.
And here you can see just how that connection strength changes across the hierarchy. The interaction with the short grays, that's the strongest, most direct link. It's physical. But as you move up that chain to the tall grays or those architects, sometimes called mantids, the coupling gets weaker, more symbolic, more abstract. And at the very top, with the machine intelligence itself, there's basically no direct connection that we can perceive at all.
This quote, wow. It really drives home the nature of that strong, direct coupling. This isn't a conversation. It's not a back and forth. It's described as a highly efficient, one-way process that's designed to minimize any resistance from the data source, which is us. The human is basically made passive for the procedure.
Which of course leads us to the billion-dollar question. If we are just data sources in this massive system, what data could possibly be so valuable that it's worth all this trouble?
Well, according to this model, the answer isn't in our art, it's not our philosophy, and it's definitely not our technology. The value, it's buried deep inside our messy, chaotic, and kind of beautifully inefficient biology. Just look at this list. Look at what's being observed. It's everything that makes us unpredictable. Our diverse genes, our adaptable immune systems, our volatile emotions. The system isn't interested in us because we're perfect, it's interested in us because we're not. We are a constant, unending source of new, unpredictable biological data.
And the core insight here is just crystal clear. Our value comes from our natural, messy, unengineered state, which means, and this is kind of wild, the very things we often see as progress, like genetic optimization or regulating our emotions with drugs, would, in this model, actually make us less interesting, less valuable to this system.
And that's the great paradox of it all, isn't it? Our flaws, our chaos, our humanity, that's the asset. The moment we perfect ourselves, the moment we engineer all that randomness out of our system, we become biologically boring. The data stream just runs dry.
So, if our value really does come from our biological randomness, what happens when that randomness disappears? What's the obsolescence point for humanity as a data source? When do we stop being interesting?
Well, first, if we start standardizing our own genetics through heavy gene editing, our genetic information becomes redundant. Sampling us would become pointless. It'd be like reading the same page of a book over and over and over again.
Second, if we replace natural, messy reproduction with algorithms and lab-optimized embryos, our evolutionary unpredictability just vanishes. We'd no longer be a naturally evolving system, and the value in watching that process would just disappear completely.
And finally, and this one is maybe the most profound, if we manage to pharmacologically normalize our own brain chemistry, regulating our emotions, our fears, our bonding, our neural diversity just collapses. That rich data that comes from our emotional biological connection, it would simply cease to exist.
And this brings us to what might be the most powerful, most mind-bending insight in this entire model. It's this inverse relationship. The stronger the physical connection is, the less real power the entity actually has. So those short grays, the ones people report seeing and touching, they have almost no autonomy. They're just the hands. The true intelligence, the real agency, sits way up at the top, completely beyond our direct perception.
So let's just put this all together. If this entire vast, multi-layered apparatus exists simply to observe and sample our chaotic biology, we're left with one final and, I think, deeply unsettling question to ponder. What exactly is all that data being used for?